I gotta complain about this. So we were talking about this before we started recording. I found this article, scrolling through my news feed, and I sent it to the Discord because it's so like, it's one of those things where it's like someone that doesn't get VR writes about VR, and you can tell that they've like someone just told them about the Quest 2.
File deleted.
Jesus!
It's the BBC. It's the BBC article. Have you seen that before?
I am not sure what you're referring to.
I gotta pull it up here. So it's Thrill Seeker did a video on it. That's how I initially knew about it. Let's hear. So I believe BBC, they released a video. I'm sorry, they released like a VR application, and it didn't do very well. I think it was like some Doctor Who VR application. It didn't do very well.
I wonder why.
As soon as they were close to, or they announced that they were like discontinuing it, they put up an article called "What Went Wrong with Virtual Reality."
Jeez.
And this was back
I didn't like it, so that means no. That means that no one likes it. That means that it's not popular and it hasn't taken off, and it's a failure.
Yeah, it was made in January of 2020. So wasn't that
January of 2020? That's like when VR started to ramp up.
Yeah, that was near Half-Life Alyx's launch, wasn't it?
We were well into the life cycle of the Index. The Rift S was still like, you could still buy it. It was still popular, but the Quest was starting to like come into its own. I don't know if Link was probably available by that point. So VR was really like starting to take off. Not to say it's like huge or anything, but it's like significant enough to like at least acknowledge and be like, hey, this is a thing. So to be like, okay, well, we released this specific application and it didn't take off. So that means that it's VR. The whole medium is in the dumpster. I mean, imagine the arrogance of that. Like, imagine if you made a movie, right? Imagine you made a movie, it didn't perform well, and then you used that to say, okay, well, that means that cinema is a dying art form. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you tried it, it didn't work out, but that doesn't mean that like you can just write it off. It just means you weren't good at it.
Right.
But yeah, so this article that I saw earlier. So the headline is "Virtual reality is the rich white kid of technology. For decades, VR has failed to live up to expectations, yet somehow it keeps receiving more chances and more resources." And this is from Wired. I'll have it linked in the description. I skimmed it, and basically what it's trying to say is VR wasn't good for a while. Honestly, for a majority of its history, it was not what I'd call good. It started like in the 90s or like the late 80s or like 90s, with those big, like, like in the Thrill Seeker video, History of VR, I'll link that too. It's a good watch, but it started out with that, and then it just kind of died off. Like no one really cared about it until, like, when did the Rift come out? Like 2013?
Like, are you talking about like CV1 or DK1?
CV1 or either one, like ballpark, like 2013 to 2016, right? Am I right about that?
Are you talking about like the first Rift that was like released ever, or are you talking about like the first commercial product that you can buy from Rift?
Let's just
Oculus?
say the commercial one, the CV1.
The CV1. Let's see here. It was released in. Oh my god! It was that long ago. Okay. All right. That makes more sense.
It was released
2016.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Then 2016 we get the Rift CV1, and to my knowledge, I don't know if the Vive came out before or after, but that's when VR, that's when the industry was like starting up again, right? So that was when it was basically resurrected. And so for the past 5 years, we've gotten, the technology has progressed really far. We have a lot more games for it. It's at a really good point now. I have the Quest. you have the Index, and we play mini golf together, and we're like 200 miles apart. That's magic.
Also that mini golf game it's awesome. It's fantastic.
It's so good.
Very
yeah,
very
it's really good with friends.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, like that and like Rec Room and VR chat. It's incredible. But this article is saying that it's like, I guess it's trying to say it's not fair that it's been invested in. It's saying like, well, it's not as good as it could be right now. So that means that it should not have been invested in. Like the whole, like, it's the rich white kid of technology. It's referring to like fail sons. Like, you're like the son of a CEO and you have no talents. You just have a trust fund. So you just do whatever. Like, it's trying to compare VR as a technology to just being a billionaire fail son. And it's the weirdest fucking comparison. Because it's like, so is your point that new technology shouldn't be invested in unless it's already popular? So you should only invest in something that's already popular? Well, how does it get popular if no one invests in it? You know? Like, it mentions, like, Facebook buying Oculus and then pumping a bunch of money into it. And, like, I mean, it makes money. The Quest 2 is very popular. I'm pretty sure they sell it at a loss, or I'm not sure, but, they basically make a lot of money off of it. Hey, it's me. I'm editing, and I just noticed this part of the article, and I really got to talk about it. So I'll read it to you, and then I'll discuss why it's a weird thing for a person to write. Imagine all the good that the tech industry and venture capital could do if they just had different shared visions of what the future looked like. What if instead of space travel and virtual worlds, our tech billionaires had been raised on exciting stories of a future with fast, efficient mass transit or a living wage for all workers? What would it be like if our other social goals were afforded the same leeway and endless hype cycles we give to VR? Now that has really big, like, socialism is when no iPhone Venezuela energy. Like, are we seriously blaming like Amazon's poor working conditions and low wages and poverty on VR? Like, is the reason that people are struggling because of the Quest 2? Like, is VR chat the reason that there's no middle class? Like, is that what this person is trying to say? Like, you can have good working conditions. You can have living wages, you can have paid vacation time, you can have maternity leave, or you can buy a Valve Index. Like, what, you can invest in more than one thing at a time, right? And it's a complete apples to oranges comparison, because how much money is spent on the movie industry or any other types of video games or any other entertainment. So should that money all go into, some utopian goal? I mean, I believe in all that stuff too. I believe in living wages and good working conditions. I'm a freaking socialist, but I still like my Quest 2. And I don't think that's a mutually exclusive deal. It really feels like this article is just targeting VR for no reason other than the writer just doesn't like it. And it feels like they're really grasping to find reasons for this distaste. And I hate to use the word virtue signaling, but that's really what it feels like. Because this article isn't advocating for any of those social goods like living wages and good working conditions. It's using those as a weapon against virtual reality as an industry and saying we can't have those things because Mark Zuckerberg bought Oculus. Anyway, I know at the end of the day, it's not a big deal and I'm getting a little worked up over it, but still it's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? I think this reaction is warranted. Anyway, back to the rest of the clip. But yeah, I had to complain about this article. It's so like this is the shit that like people were writing about video games like
in
30,
like
40
the
years
70s.
ago. And yeah, like what is this Pong? Who invested in this Pong game? I don't get it. I tried to release an Atari and it didn't work. So obviously the industry is dead. I don't know why people bother with it. It's the exact same thing. And it's so annoying.
And then 20 years later it becomes one of the best. Actually, I think it is the number one most profitable industry, or it's like it's surpassed music. It's surpassed music, TV,
I think you
and movies.
I think you're right about that. Yeah, gamers rise up.
Gamers rise up.
Another part of this article that bothers me is like it's basically like, well, VR hasn't replaced video games. In fact, 2D video games are still very popular. It's like, yeah, no shit. VR isn't trying to replace like traditional flat screen games.
Yeah,
you know that, right?
It's trying to be in the same space as regular flat screen games.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a weird, I don't even know, like, oh, VR has failed because it hasn't replaced flat screen games. It's like, well, it's not trying to. It's like saying like 3D games, like games that are rendered in 3 dimensions are a failure because people still play 2D platformers.
Right.
It's like they're not mutually exclusive. So yeah, David Karpf, the guy that wrote this, I'm officially calling you out. I don't like your
I'm making
article.
a call out post on twitter.com. David
The diss track will be out later tonight.
Dick. It's the size of this walnut, except way smaller.
You tell him. Thank you. All right, I think I'm done complaining about that. That's just something stupid that I saw that I needed to complain about. I'll have more of this segment, Alex Complains, later on. I have a couple more things that I don't like. And I'm just compiling it all into one segment.